All right, here we go. So yes, the Dune Awakening dev team just held an absolutely massive AMA about the future of Dune Awakening. And a lot of you guys are wondering, hey Robbie, could we be seeing a brand new map expansion down the road, or will they change up the current map space big time? Well, the dev team elaborates on what they're going to do. And for those of you really seeking brand new PVE content, well, I have very good news about that one. And the big question, will the Deep Desert ever become PVE only? Will that be an option down the road? And July is going to be seeing a brand new update to the game, but what does it include? And the big question is, will we eventually get dual wielding in the game? Well, we have a surprising answer on that one. So yeah, we got a ton of brand new updates to go over in this video, but also remember, if you are new, welcome aboard. Remember to smack that subscribe button if you want to stay updated on all things Dune Awakening. And yes, as always, later in the video, I'm going over your top comments, so look forward to that. Remember to leave a comment down below. All right, so I say we dive into that official Dune Awakening launch AMA with the Funcom development team now. Let's get into the first question, shall we? So here we are. What quality of life plans do you have in the pipeline? What are the PVE plans for the near future? And we're going to get into more details here as we go. It's going to get more and more nuanced. So we got a response here from Funcom Scott, who says this: we have an update in testing that contains a lot of quality of life updates, which we are aiming to release in early July. When we get closer to it being publicly testable, we will release the full patch notes. It contains too many changes for me to list here, but you'll be seeing it soon. For PVE plans for the future, each of our major updates will always continue new story content and new PVE content, which will release at the same time as our DLCs come out. Our goal is to have these released every 3 to 4 months. So the big question is, are you guys happy about them aiming for about every 3 to 4 months? Is that good for you when it comes to releasing those big PVE content drops? Sound off. I'm kind of curious also to see what they're going to be doing in between to trickle in some content throughout. We'll see. Now, next question here, we have this one right here. Do you plan to add daily and weekly contracts for PvE solo players? Great question. Here's the response. Currently, we have Landsrad to offer weekly content for players to engage with. We have read the feedback about some tasks getting locked early, tasks being too hard for solo players, and feedback on the general rewards. We will make improvements to all these features to make sure that anyone that wants to engage with the Landsrad can, and that they can feel the rewards are worth it. In addition, we will be releasing more PvE content with each major update, and we will have more dynamic encounters in the game that will offer variety and new content for you to discover as you are exploring Arrakis. I kind of answered like my previous concern there a little bit, because we need more stuff to do in between the big content releases, you know what I mean? Dynamic events, that sort of thing that really changes up the space to keep this game entertaining in the long road. And they're going to be doing some interesting things that we're going to be getting into here in just a moment. And we got another question right here. So we have, are you at least entertaining the idea change to make Scout Ornithopter's weaponless? What are your goals regarding changes to PvP in the Deep Desert now that it's been in the player's hands for a short while? Great question, and the response is this. Plan is not to remove rockets from the Scout Ornithopter. We will make it so how you equip your Scout will affect its maneuverability, speed, etc., making the Assault Copter the better choice when you want to engage in combat, but still keeping some of the offensive capabilities for the Scout if that's how you choose to spec. We also have another reply here. As for PvP in the Deep Desert, we're currently formulating a plan considering, number one, we want players to make meaningful decisions about what they bring with them and how they outfit their vehicles. And number two, once players have engaged in PvP, we want the experience to be reliable, responsive, and clearly understood. This determines how PvP as a whole feels and how players make their moment-to-moment decisions in a fight. And finally, number three, to ensure a more reliable experience in ground combat, we are continuing to address issues with movement, syncs, and rubber banding, as well as ability activation reliability. And I'm seeing that currently, you know, the Dune audience right now is very torn between PvE and PvP spaces. A lot of you guys really want that in-game space, the Deep Desert, to be PvE centric, or at least have that option. We'll get into more in just a moment about that. But how are you guys feeling about PvP overall right now? Do you think it makes or breaks the game currently? All right, what do we have here? Will you be looking at change so we can name storage containers, and they have a little bit more details here. I did talk about this previously, but stick with me. They say this vehicle naming is also something that will be coming to help out with management of inventory and bases. This will appear on the inventory drop down in the base, so you know which vehicle you are taking resources from. So there's a little bit more details on how that system will work when they actually update it. Now, next up, we got, are there any plans to implement something like faction-based warfare in the deep desert with a war map and such? PvP in the deep desert is a big issue at the moment, as it is almost entirely aircraft-based free-for-all. I do not mind having aircraft being able to fight, but would like to see something to encourage more ground combat to make use of all the skills and gears we have for such things. That's a great point. Now, the response is the deep desert will always stay a PvP free-for-all area, but we might consider adding other locations that offer factional warfare. That would be very, very cool. Let me tell you what. You guys know my opinion about PvP in a lot of these games. I know a lot of you guys really appreciate the PvP in this one, but I am more of a PvE-centric player. That's just how I am. I do want them to still retain PvP in this, of course, but I really, really hope that they expand the in-game into PvE a lot more. They've got to consider that. I think it would be super important for the longevity of this game. All right, moving on, we got, can we get a deep desert zone for only on-foot combat? Feels like it's just air combat at the moment, creating a mode where only bike and buggies are allowed. Also, can we get more dungeons with deep desert with a variety of bosses and targeted loot farm systems where players can select loot they want to drop? And the response is from Funcom Joel, who says, no, this is not the plan. However, a lot of our adjustments and balancing are going to drive combat towards the core vision, which is people competing over points of interest in the deep desert. The current balance between vehicles and on foot is not tuned for our liking, and there are multiple changes in the pipeline to address this above and beyond bugs we will fix. Now, this is where it gets interesting. We will continue to add dungeons, but we will not add targeted loot systems, as the entire point of the deep desert is the randomization and re-exploration loop, and this would work entirely against that. But you know, a lot of you guys are wondering, hey, what about those boss battles? You know, you asked about boss battles. Would we be seeing anything new there? And that was asked here. Would we be seeing boss fights or raids or dungeon or any activities like that? And yeah, the response is we will continue to evolve our PvE content, including adding boss encounters as part of future dungeons. Thanks, glad you like it. So we're going to be getting some dungeon updates and brand new dungeons, it seems. So that's something that I am truly excited about, to see the PvE space evolve. I just want the more in-game loot to end up in PvE spaces. That's what I want. All right. Will we ever be able to stack storage boxes? And the response is there are ways to do this already using half walls to create shelves. We are continuously looking into ways to improve quality of life, and stacking storage boxes is on that list. So yeah, the more you know. And there was a very long-winded question, I guess you would say, from Upset Goal, but I say we get straight into the response because it includes the questions anyway. So we have this, a lot to address here, so I will try to keep my answer short and to the point. What are your plans to improve PvP? We have a lot of plans to address your points about respawn times and revives. Full loot is a decree that can be obtained by the Landsrad, so compete there if you want to make it a reality. There are control points in the deep desert already. We have no plans to reduce the deep desert size. As we work on the game, we'll continue to work on making PvP more rewarding. I'm sure you will note I'm not being very concrete, but that is because we are planning and watching how people are playing and finding the right points to address. But yeah, now would be the time to sound off. How are you guys feeling about the deep desert? What would you like to see specifically change there? And moving on, we have this one right here. Can we consolidate sieges and servers to see people more frequently for PvE and PvP encounters? And they say we will do this when we feel it is necessary. Also, can the in-game notifications have time associated with player or server time zone instead of just UTC? Yes, this is being improved, thank goodness. And when are we going to fix the class's quests? We are making multiple improvements, worth noting that a majority of people have zero issues completing them, but we have a few reporting issues. And then they say, can we have deposit all and extract all button for water storages? They already said that they are going to be bringing that to the game. And can we increase the party size or remove friendly fire between guildmates? No, this is the party size we have chosen for the game, and our encounters in PvE are balanced towards this. Changing is not in the plans. We also expect guilds to coordinate and work together. FF is there to ensure that they do. But what about this? Can the map filters be more granular and persistent? They're going to be looking into that. And can the radar top HUD be made dynamic as well? No, this is not planned and is very expensive to implement and change, so that's not going to be happening. Can we make it easier to distinguish between players and NPCs, especially in PvP areas? And they go on to say, no, this is in line with the vision of the game. Also, can we have an option to skip all dialogues and animations? They said absolutely not. It is clear from your questions that you value efficiency above all else. But the vision of the game is to value Dune above all else, so no. But how are you guys feeling about that one? I'm kind of curious about your take, because, yeah, we'll see. Now, can we remove that mini-map game between worlds? Nope, this is also in line with the vision for the game, so don't expect that to change. And can you make the map feature be able to toggle the map across the worlds and see the party, or just toggle between worlds instead of restricting the map only to the player's location? Nope, we have no plans to implement this. It would add a lot of server overhead and absolutely would not be worth it. So yeah, there's your answers. I will say I do really admire how they're not beating around the bush at all with these answers. And I'm always curious about map expansions and updating the map. So here's the question. Are there any plans for map expansion? Not saying there's an issue with the size. The map is quite big, but was purely curious if there are going to be any future map expansions. So here's the response. We have many plans to expand the game with additional maps in the future, and the Overland map is one of our vehicles to do so. The Dune universe has a lot of interesting locations and worlds to explore, and we're looking forward to continuing to build on top of the foundation we have. That's actually super exciting news right there, and I would imagine that that would really liven up the PVE experience down the road for sure. And we have is a third faction coming to the game whose purpose was previously described as to help keep the balance of power between Atreides and Harkonnen, going to be the House Corino. And the response is, it is not House Corino, but it is coming. So we do know what the faction isn't going to be at the very least. Are you guys bummed to hear that? But again, sound off, what faction would you guys like? Also, will you ever implement a mini-map or map overlay so I can navigate easier while driving? I'm finding that I open and close my full screen map repeatedly while trying to dodge quicksand, etc. And they say, no, we actually had one for a while, and I asked the team to remove it. Mini-maps draw the eye away from the world and distract from the experience. You know, Borderlands 4 is also doing this. There's been some controversy about that. So instead, we move the design to a more intentional focus on world elements, scanning to have resource show in 3D space, or hazards like quicksand be something that you can plan your route around. Vehicle scanners will be your friend when dodging quicksand, but also just learning to recognize it visually will be of great help. I do get the concern with a mini-map, because once you implement a mini-map many times with games, that's all you look at. You just forget to look at the actual environment, the artwork, and be immersed in what the developer kind of wants you to experience, which of course is the world of Dune, not a mini-map, you know. But seems like some of you guys really want a mini-map. How are you feeling about that? Let me know. Also, will we have dual daggers soon, or the arrival of dual cry-snipe? And we have a response. We will add some form of dual wielding, but it will not be possible to mix and match weapons. But what do we got next? Will hostile PVE animal types be added to the game to give us a mix of potential threats out in the world? I'm not clued up on the lore, but finding something other than humanoid would be really cool. I'm going to say I agree. They need to mix up the variety there. And they say we are considering more enemy types long term. Hell yes. So that is good to hear, because that's one of the things I really do think the game needs in the PvE space. And will there be more building sets and cosmetics in general added into the game? Would love a custom sign creator for public spaces in our bases. And they did say we have a lot in the pipeline, including new building pieces, cosmetics, and much more. So you guys can expect that down the road. So yeah, some really cool stuff happening. Excited for that July update, by the way. But how are you guys feeling about the deep desert experience? I think that's like the hottest topic right now, is the in-game experience. Again, really crossing my fingers that I do something more with the PVE for in-game. Something, you know, really consider it. But let's get into your top comments. Remember to leave a comment down below. It can end up right here in a future video. And as always, if you are new, welcome aboard. Remember to smack that subscribe button to stay in the know about all things Dune Awakening. But what do we got here? Let's start out with the first top comment. I think I need to zoom in a little bit more. So we have, this game will give me my Dune fix by the time Dune Messiah comes out. Hell yes. I think it will keep us entertained for quite some time. Also, we have, I have not reached the deep desert yet. I have no intention to rush it. Force PvP is horrible. I did hope they expand the PvE content for my sake. Even with that being said, I will have 200 hours invested before this becomes an issue at my current rate. If I quit after 200 hours, I won't have any regrets. That equates to $1 for every 4 hours of entertainment. That's a good value. That's a really good point right there. But I also think that goes to show that it gives the dev team some time to kind of address these issues before the majority of the player base head into the true in-game experience. And we have this. I'm definitely in that 30s category. I pre-ordered one day before release and I played 11 hours so far. I love the game and I want to play a lot more, but I'm at work 45 to 50 hours a week and in class for another 10 to 15, so I barely have time for basic life necessities. I hear you, man. Take your time with it. That's the entire point of something like this, is just to enjoy it. You don't have to clock in like a bajillion hours in this game already. That's not necessary. It can be a slow burn where you can really, you know, embrace the atmosphere, the lore of this world. You know, Dune is just so rich in lore. Just enjoy it, take your time. And also, hopefully in the future, you know, you find some more free time once you're past your schooling and stuff like that. You know, once that's behind you, you can spend some more time in the games that you love so much. All right, so what do we got next? They confirm more in-game for PvEers, give them time, people enjoy what there is at the moment, and be patient. The industry FOMO epidemic is real, and I hope this game sort of turns that around a lot to ask of one game and dev team, but I can help. I'm seeing more and more of that mentality with every game I'm covering. I see a lot of you guys are just, you know, not in too much of a rush. You really want to sit back, relax, and enjoy your game and not have the pressure of feeling like it's a rat race, you know what I mean? Getting to the end game as fast as possible or getting the absolute craziest gear day one or what have you. You know, there's something to be said also just about enjoying like the story itself, you know, of a game. All right, so what do we got? I hope they fix the bug where enemies shoot through walls. One upvote there. I don't know how much that's happening to you guys. Haven't run into that too much. Then we have, I've been solo for 50 hours and having fun. I would like if we can get that sleep tent sooner in the game, so when you explore you can be safe from a storm. It makes more sense in the beginning of the game. Yeah, of course. You got to be super aware of when those storms roll in, and you can't be really caught out in the open at all. But yeah, there it is. Once again, the latest happenings around Dune Awakening. I'll keep you guys in the know about all the updates and things coming for this game. Super excited for like the new PvE stuff. But thanks guys for watching. Stay tuned here for more, and I will see you all next time. Take care.